People of the internet, welcome back to another video. It is I, Don Thomas, back in here with another one. As always, folks, the likes, the comments, the subscribes are all greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for the support on this channel. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into today's topic, folks. Got a video pulled up here. It comes from a YouTube channel called Digging the Greats, in which he entitles the video, "The Hardest Part of Separating Art from the Artist." Of course, folks, saw a thumbnail as well too. Of course, it looks like he had Kanye West on there, whatever the case is. So I speak on this a lot of the times as well too. Of course, again, being somebody who's a fan of hip hop, being a fan of culture, we see a lot of situations where some of the people that we've maybe grown up to listen to, examples, the R. Kellys, the Kanyes, whatever the case. Anytime we come across an artist who we love their work, but we don't necessarily condone the things that they do outside of their work, is where we're left up to debate whether we want to continue to support this artist or not. So I saw the title, I saw the thumbnail. It was a little bit interesting to me. Of course, I'll share my thoughts. I encourage you guys to share your thoughts down in the comment section below. Let's get into it.
I was recently DJing an after party at a wedding, and this woman comes up to me to make a request. So I prep my typical, I'll see if I can work it in, and then she drops it. "Can you play Ignition by R. Kelly?" I so quickly said no. I haven't played R. Kelly in years, and no one requests that anymore. I told her no, and she's like, "Come on, everyone will love it." And I said, "No, everyone will be glaring at me and booing." And she goes, "No, they'll all be glaring at me because I look so fabulous." Drunk people at weddings are the worst. So I shoo her away, and I keep playing other stuff. Then a separate woman comes up to me and says, "Can you play Black Skinhead by Kanye West?" What is happening? Clearly, these two women are able to separate the art from the artist so easily. But as the DJ in charge of the music that the whole room hears, I'm going to play it a little more cautiously. There are a billion versions of this. An artist makes some kind of art that you really love, and then it turns out that they're a horrible person in one way or another. It's not just music, obviously. Authors, actors, directors, artists of all kinds have moments where you learn something about them, and it makes it hard to continue to enjoy their art. But music is different. A Neil Gaiman book might sit on my shelf, and while I loved it when I read it, I haven't reread it in years. I'm not interacting with it regularly. A movie with a controversial director or scummy actor might have meant a lot to you, but how often do you watch that movie? Music is more difficult, and I think I figured out why. It's much more personal because music can become the soundtrack to your everyday life. We interact with music in a completely different way than any other medium, listening and re-listening. So when we find out that the artist that made it did something or said something horrible, cutting that art out of your life is a difficult thing to do. There's another much bigger layer to this, but let me talk about this channel specifically for a moment.
Pause it right there real quick. So of course you see the context there. Again, shout out to this YouTube creator over on YouTube. Again, the channel is called Digging the Greats. Where he talks about a concept that I've actually spoke on before as well to myself, being able to separate art from artists. So, I guess specifically in this video is talking more so about music, but of course art can be different art forms, whether it be directors, authors, whatever the case is. We're all typically fans of certain people and the art that they do, right? But specifically to music, the reason why I thought this was interesting, of course, again, I saw the title, saw the thumbnail, is because I've been able to do this. I think I've had to do this as of late. I champion the idea of being able to separate the art from the artist. And of course, you actually mentioned him as well too, I couldn't help but to think of Kanye West. Of course, as of late, you may or may not be aware, Kanye West has, over the past few days or whatever the case, I think he's deactivated his Twitter account now, or X account, whatever you want to call it. But he had some things that for me were personally the final straw. Now, mind you, that's a lot to say for somebody who's been a Kanye fan for, who knows, just the graduation, maybe college dropout, whatever the case is. And Kanye is one of those people who I support a lot of his art forms. So whether it be the shoes, the fashion, of course, whether it be his, the Yeezy brand, of course, whether it be the music, of course, whether it be the things that he usually does, his set design on his concerts. I've always been a fan of Kanye West. But I personally, as of late, I also hit that unfollow button on Twitter, of course. I think even it might still be on Instagram, I'm not too sure. But of course, you may not be aware that Kanye had a series of different tweets that were undeniably controversial. Some were, in my personal opinion, were distasteful, had no class, had no taste. And of course, sometimes we let Kanye do these things, of course, or we expect it from him because he's Kanye, right? All of us know that Kanye is openly admitted that he has mental health issues. I think he's admitted that he has autism. I think, of course, he's bipolar, whatever the case is. And I don't necessarily think that is the green light for you to, act like you ain't got no sense, to be completely honest. But for me, I like to think that at some point we all got to be held accountable, right? At some point, maybe it just might be me just getting older, but the age and the stage that I'm at in my life right now, I'm kind of over it. I'm kind of over it. Now, is this me saying that you'll never hear me, support Kanye West or listen to his music or, wear the shoes, whatever the case is? Nah. I do own Yeezys. I do have Kanye in a bunch of my playlists, hip hop playlists, chill vibes playlists. I listen to Kanye. Is this me saying that I'll never listen to his music moving forward? No. I think Kanye West is one of those artists where, for the most part, if he drops something, I'm most likely gonna listen. Do I like every single song that Kanye West has dropped? No, of course. I like some more than others. I like more albums more than others, of course. But I don't see myself taking the time out of my day to go and remove all the Kanye songs because of tasteless Twitter rant that he had not too long ago. And again, that goes back to the whole theme of this video, talking about being able to separate art from artists. But I think in other facets as well too, we should be able to. I think that's a good trait to have, right? Being able to still appreciate somebody's, thought process or their art, whatever the case is, and not necessarily the things that they do outside of that. So of course, as you mentioned, of course, Kanye even before that was in the headlines, outside of the Twitter rants and things that he was saying that were just, in my personal opinion, again, just distasteful. He also whipped up some controversy because of he showed up to the Grammys, of course, and him and his wife, who was basically wearing nothing at the Grammys, whatever the case is, that stirred up some controversy. And people were saying, of course, he's only doing this because he has an album coming out soon. The album is entitled Bully, so people were thinking that this is all just marketing to, whatever the case is, promote his upcoming album, which may or may not be the case, whatever the case is. Kanye also had a commercial on this past Super Bowl, of course. That was, of course, it wasn't nothing, whatever. It was just a regular commercial where he was promoting his website. You go to the website. When you went to the website, of course, he was then, selling merch that had anti-Semitic, I guess you could say, imagery on the clothes, whatever the case is. So I heard, whatever. I didn't go to the site personally, but I did see images of the clothes he was selling. So Kanye, of course, we do know that Kanye is not all the way there, right? And some people like him for that. They like that he speaks his mind freely and he says what he always, what he feels like. He goes against the grain. And some people think that is just buffoonery. I'm at this stage in my life right now where I think it's just buffoonery. I would be lying if I said that Kanye wasn't one of my greatest inspirations over the years. Of course, in terms of, again, I too champion the idea that people should be able to speak freely and express themselves, when done correctly, when done with some class, with some taste, right? I don't necessarily do things or say things just to get a reaction out of people. I do things and say things because that's how I feel at that time, or I'm passionate about whatever that topic may be. But Kanye is, of course, I think he goes a little bit off the rails, and people still, champion him for it, and call it art and say, "Oh man, you just don't understand art, man. He's a genius. He's a this, that, and the other." I just don't like when people lean on their mental illness, and I think I even said that in another video. I think even Kanye himself said that his mental illness is a superpower, and he deems himself a superhero, whatever the case is. And I do like the idea of people being able to overcome adversity and not let their life challenges stop them from creating art and expressing themselves. So I do still champion those themes, I guess you could say. But for me, in terms of just like the antics outside of the music for Kanye in particular, I feel like I'm at the age right now where enough is enough, right? I think, and that could be for any celebrity as well too. I've always said as of late, we're seeing a shift in celebrity culture right now. We're seeing a shift where some people are, I think people are always going to be fans of certain people, but I think we're seeing a shift or a great awakening, I should say, with people realizing that, man, a lot of these celebrities, we don't know who they are behind closed doors, right? Another example is, of course, P. Diddy. So, of course, this gentleman was talking about R. Kelly. We know situations with R. Kelly, Tory Lanez. I don't know if you guys know Tory Lanez, the whole Meg Thee Stallion shooting and this, that, and the other. He's another person that I'm a fan of, whatever the case is. P. Diddy, this, that, and the other. So there's not a short list of artists who we might appreciate them in films, we might appreciate their songs and this, that, and the other, but we don't necessarily condone the things that they do outside of that. I think that's okay. So yeah, this was a realization for me, man. This was a realization. Like Kanye, for some time, he's been doing some things that it's just like, all right, bro, like you're getting harder and harder to defend. Like I can't, as a grown man who preaches a different method, of course, I like to say that we should find, certain ways. I'm all for people expressing themselves, whatever the case is, but after a certain while, man, it's a difference between just buffoonery and actually trying to get a solid message across. I think Kanye, he might call himself saying that, oh, this is how he's, getting his message across. And, some people will say art is, polarizing. Art is supposed to evoke strong emotions from you, whatever the case is. And all that could be true. But for me personally, I just feel like, again, maybe call it just age, call it maturity, whatever the case is. I feel like I just had enough. This is like, I don't like distractions. I don't like when people are blatantly just trying to be distractions or just, foolish for attention. Like, I feel like if you're so creative, you can find creative ways, tasteful ways to get your point across. I think is my whole thing. So I saw this video, of course, and it resonated a lot. I do think, again, as I mentioned, is this me saying that I'm never going to listen to Kanye again? I'm never going to, purchase his clothes or whatever the case is. I'm not necessarily saying that. But I am saying that I have, for Kanye and for other artists, have been able to master the art of separating art from artists. I think we can still be fans of the output, the creative output that these people are doing, but not necessarily fans of the antics that happen outside of that, right? So, very good video. Of course, I'll be sure to leave the link if you want to watch this full thing in its entirety. Again, the channel is called Digging the Crates. Those are my thoughts, folks. Of course, I want to hear yours down in the comment section below. Have you been able to separate art from artists? And I even think sometimes with just regular people as well too. So maybe these are just like other people, maybe your coworkers, family members, whatever the case is, old friends. I believe it is a skill set that allows us to, keep healthy, distance or relationships or whatever the case is without, necessarily jumping off the bridge for some of these people as well too. Because don't get me wrong, there's still diehards out there. There's still diehards that are willing to jump off the bridge for their favorite artist, their favorite athlete, no matter what they say or do. But I don't think I'm at that stage in my life anymore. I think we should all be held accountable. We should all, as grown adults, whether you have mental health issues, whatever the case is, we should all be able to express ourselves in a manner that still has a little bit of class, a little bit of taste. That's just my personal opinion. Of course, I want to hear yours down in the comment section below. As always, the likes, the comments, the subscribes are all greatly appreciated. I will catch you guys on the next one.